Well, at the end of day 2 at Trent Bridge, it's time for Ask George. Well, George, what's your verdict on today's play?
England have been really relieved, by the way, the last couple of hours were. Not just because they got some runs and sort of made inroads, but because I thought it's indicated the struggle of their bowlers a bit. Because there are lots of runs out there. It's a very quick scoring pitch. And, if fielders drop their catches, batters can go on and get very big scores. So I thought it meant that England's bowling didn't look quite as bad as it had previously.
Well, the first question today comes from Michael Penhale, who asks, is it being too optimistic to hope England may still be batting at close on Sunday?
And he might even mean in their first innings. No, I don't think it is. There's still Joe Root to come. Look, it's been a long time, really, since England have batted particularly well in these situations. But they are capable of it. And, Joe Root, Ben Stokes, Johnny Bairstow to come. There's still quite a lot of batting there. And they'll be hugely encouraged that Ollie Pope, who's this sort of totemic figure, if that's the right word, in English cricket has started to, he looked very fluent. I know he had a wee bit of luck, but he looked very fluent. And they'll be delighted by that because he's a very important player to their future plans. So, of course, they can be, but it's a challenge.
Michael comes in with another slightly more light-hearted question. What is the cover driving equivalent of being a happy hooker? And he suggests a dopey driver or a cover drive klutz.
I don't know, but I suspect that's a reference to Zach Crawley. And Zach Crawley wasn't out driving today. I thought he got a very, very good ball. The problem with that is, if you're an opening bat, you are going to receive the odd very, very good ball, which is just about unplayable. Which makes it all the more important you don't give it away when you're set. At other times, you don't have soft dismissals in there as well because they're going to be the tough ones. So, tough day for him, but he wasn't out driving. It wasn't really batter error. That ball was probably playable. The word unplayable we probably overuse, but very, very good.
Well, Will Hinch goes straight in on the Crawley vibe. He asks, he has the shots to score runs at this level, but is it time to accept that Crawley doesn't have the defensive technique to succeed?
That's quite an astute question, to be fair, because it is right that cricket, batting maybe especially, is as much about what you don't do as you do. But it's an odd day to make the point, because he didn't do anything wrong, really. Sometimes you do just have to say really well bowled to bowl. I mean, he didn't push at that ball. Could he have not played it? Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think he could. But it was very good. It wasn't one of those dismissals where he's been out flashing a drive at one that wasn't there for it, or he's been, suckered into that sort of shot. It really wasn't. So is it the day to say that? I don't know. He needs some runs because he's getting out far too easily and far too often. But I'm not sure that today was the example that you're going to use even when he's dropped to show what his weaknesses are.
Spencer Clark asks, should a captain ever field on the boundary as Ben Stokes was earlier today?
Again, it's an interesting question. I think so. Why is he doing that? He's doing that because you've got a plan to get a guy hooking, and he's a very good catcher. I think with Ben Stokes, he always wants to be in the action. He's never going to hide. He backs himself to take chances. He's seen everyone else drop them. Quite like that he did that. Yeah, I think it's all right.
And one of the topics of the day has been Moeen Ali saying he's ready to play Test cricket again. Ron asks, would you recall him ahead of Leach and Parkinson this summer?
Well, he'd have to play some cricket, and I don't think he's played tomorrow. So, yeah. Going to play tomorrow for Worcester, though. I mean, really, I think he's got to play a bit of first-class cricket first. But, yeah... I would, all things being equal, and if he's had some cricket and looks okay and is fit. But I don't think you just turn up and say, oh, go on, I'll have a bat that's 8 and bowl some overs. You've got to be fit and you've got to prove that you're in some sort of nick and form. We saw Johnny Bairstow come back into the last test having only played T20 cricket, and he looked frenetic and a bit loose. So I think it's reasonable to ask them, well, Moeen is what you're talking about now, but it could be Adil as well. I think it's reasonable to ask them to play some red ball cricket. But yeah, you don't have to be a genius to work out that Moeen would help balance the side. You know, he's got 5 Test centuries, hasn't he? So he offers something there. And, you know, Jack Leach, he did struggle a bit to contain today. There's nothing there for him, of course. Desperately difficult conditions. But, you know, that's kind of the game. Who said it was easy? And he went for fours, and he was good value for fours. And there were a couple of times when, you know, they came down the wicket and smashed him, and he straight away sort of fired it in short and got cut. It wasn't a great day for him, but they were very difficult circumstances. So, yeah, in Moeen at his best, if he's able to get that drift and dip and bowl with the pace that we know. Yeah, but let's not pretend that he was a guy who would have loved today. I mean, you know, he would have struggled. There have been days when Moeen's gone for fours. There's been quite a lot of days when Moeen's gone for 4 and over. But I do think Moeen at his best is better than anyone else that England has to offer. And it's great that he's beginning to be enthused. But I'd love to have seen him say, do you know what? I'll play for Worcester.
Do you think it will send an odd message to players that play county cricket week in, week out if they do start turning to players that haven't actually played that much of it in recent years, like Moeen or like Adil Rashid?
Well, I think that message was probably sent years ago when Josh Buttler got picked on the back of IPL form and potential. And there are reasons, you know, Adil Rashid's reasons for not playing for Yorkshire probably work out, bearing in mind everything that's happened at that club. That is for him to talk about anyway. But, you know, they've played lots of white ball cricket. I mean, they were allowed to go and play at the IPL, or Moeen was allowed to go and play at the IPL. So it's not as if they've, you know, completely turned their backs. There's always context. Whether it sends the wrong message, I don't know that it matters that it sends a message to players who are like working hard, because you don't necessarily get points for effort. You know, it's harsher than that. But whether you get the best out of people, whether you optimise their ability to be as good as they could be if they haven't had a little bit of practice in that environment, I think that's a reasonable question. You know, Adil Rashid in particular, he hasn't played for 3.5 years of red ball cricket. You're asking a lot, aren't you? You know, to come in and bowl on a pitch like this, might get through 30, 40 overs. Well, what did Leach bowl? He bowled 35 overs, I think. That's a lot to ask of the guy who's bowled 10 maximum for a long time and, you know, has had shoulder trouble. I believe it's better, but that would really test it, wouldn't it? So you've got to have a look at that sort of stuff. And the same for Moeen, you know. If he'd come straight into a test without some of this stuff, I don't know how his fingers are. I don't know. Do you remember he ripped his fingers on the seam ahead of the Ashes 4 or 5 years ago? Caused all sorts of trouble. So he's got to be match toughened. I don't think it's realistic or sensible or helpful to start thinking about picking people on potential entirely. You have to do a little bit to demonstrate it.
And the final question comes from James. He asks, should England be happy to take a few yo-yo seasons so long as the development under Stokes and McCullum is sustained?
I don't know about this. The thing with that is it sounds like football terminology. Now, if James means, do you accept there'll be some ups and downs on the roads of progress, then yeah, that's sensible and positive, and that's probably the way to think, yeah. If you mean, can you accept that, you know, going up and down, sort of not making a huge... I don't know. As I say, it sounds like football. It sounds like the way we talk about, say, Worcestershire going up and down between divisions or something. I think it's fair to expect more of England with all the resources and everything that they have. So up to a point, that's fair. You know, you have to be reasonable. You don't go from the year England had just had to being world beaters. That's not reasonable to expect. Of course it isn't. But I think it's fair to expect some sort of signs of tangible progress. And the messaging we've heard so far, I don't know, it's premature to reach conclusions. I'm increasingly uncomfortable with it. It seems simplistic to me. But, you know, we haven't really had a chance to get to know Brendan McCullum. Maybe we'll understand it more. Maybe the team will understand it more in time to come. It's certainly too early to reach any conclusions here. And James is right if he's making the point that, you know, it's going to take time to progress. But you can't... Whenever you talk about long-term projects, I don't know, I kind of think it gives the directors of cricket and coaches, whatever, a bit of get-out-of-jail-free card. But there's always expectations. It's international sport, of course there is. And England actually have a very good record in England over the longer period. And so expectations remain. Yeah, if he means reasonable, yeah. If he means they've got a free pass with it, no.